Why is it that you can always solve other people's problems, but you cannot solve your own? You need to change your perspective to change your life. The perspective change that you need is to separate yourself from first person into second person. We make ourselves the center of our own universes, and we want ourselves to succeed for our own fulfillment. But the drawback of being so entangled with your personal narrative is that it can be really hard to see the bigger picture, to work on your goals when they're so close to you and so precious to you, you don't really want to let them go. When you shift towards a second person perspective on your own life, suddenly your viewpoint expands tenfold. You can look at your own problems and your own goals objectively, and you can almost become a life coach to yourself. If you're anything like me, you've been told your entire life you are excellent at giving advice. And it's really funny because for the longest time, I believed that to be true of myself. But that excellent advice was never directed towards me. It was so easy for me to see other people's situations clearly and as they were, which in turn helped me to advise them on how to move forward. And I find it quite funny because it's always the people who love giving advice who cannot take their own. Everything I was telling my friends in terms of advice was everything I needed to hear, but I was deaf to. And making this perspective shift into the second person perspective has changed my life. So you might be wondering, what is the second person perspective? In English grammar, the second person refers to the person or the people being addressed directly. And it is characterized by the pronouns you, your, and yours. Think of it like an immersive story or song. You are directly engaging and addressing the reader or the listener, and by doing so, you make that second person more personally involved in the narrative. You're bringing them in, and this is a gold mine in terms of productivity and doing the things you need to do. The second person is really helpful in situations where you're quite unsure of your next steps. So, for example, instead of thinking, I'm struggling with filming a YouTube video, you are struggling with filming that YouTube video. And then it becomes like having a conversation with a friend. When your friend addresses you with a problem, you offer advice and you offer solutions. So then it becomes, you're stuck filming that YouTube video. What is going to make it easier for you to get that video done? It really helps your brain shift from being problem-based, thinking, I can't do this, and it shifts your brain towards being solution-based. You currently can't do this, but what can you change right now in order for success? When you start talking to you and you can rely on yourself to solve your own problems, you become your own best friend, your own life coach. And another really, really beautiful way to look at it is it's almost like your future self is talking to your current self. So maybe your current self is struggling with this task, but if you become the voice of your future self, you can guide the person who you are right now into the person you want to be. Going from self-centered thinking towards that second person perspective, it can feel challenging at first, especially if you're not used to it. If you really want to tap into that second person mode, start journaling in second person perspective and encourage yourself and coach yourself. Also, what could be really helpful is if you stand in front of the mirror and just talk to yourself out loud. Now, here is why the second person perspective works psychologically and will help you transform your life. First off, it reduces emotional overwhelm and it increases objectivity. Oftentimes, when you are in the depths of your own problems, your own anxieties, and also your emotional investments, it can be very hard to separate your problems and your emotions. Adopting that second person perspective helps you look at your issues from an outside perspective, and it will lead to more creative problem solving. The second person also helps you self-regulate. So instead of reacting impulsively, the second person gives you a second to think about your situation, weigh up all the different options, and helps you find the best way to respond appropriately. This trigger of your own metacognition, which is thinking about your own thoughts, and taking that extra minute or two before reacting, is key to your growth. The second person has so many practical benefits and is for so much more than just your productivity. It helps you give yourself more constructive, encouraging advice. It gives you clarity on what you really want. It helps you become less self-critical and more compassionate. And the biggest thing, it does wonders for your accountability. Because you and yourself, you're now friends, and friends hold each other accountable. And that is going to help you take action on your goals. Here are some examples of the second person in action. One is journaling. You could write down, you are trying so hard right now. You're allowed to take this day to rest, but you also know what needs to be done tomorrow. Another great example, especially for achieving your goals, is visualizing your future self talking to your current self. Like saying, you've got this, just keep going. Or you could use the second person as if you're coaching yourself. Like saying, okay, you're feeling anxious. What do you need right now? How I use the second person perspective in my daily life to solve problems and to reach my goals is whenever I'm stuck, I ask myself, what advice would I give myself if I were someone else? I have also created a mental relationship with myself, creating routines and check-ins. Whenever I find myself in a hard moment, the second person helps me reframe that. For example, you are not lazy. You just need better systems in place. And what are those systems going to be for you? I am so passionate about using the second person perspective, and I think it could really help you too. What I really want you to walk away with from this video is the fact that you already have all the answers you need to do the things you want to do. You just need to become the person who asks yourself the right questions.